What is psychological safety? A perfectly maintained garden can hide underground root rot that will topple trees in the next storm. A gleaming sports car can conceal engine problems that will leave you stranded on the motorway. A five-star restaurant can mask kitchen hygiene issues that could close them down tomorrow. And your team can seem healthy while being psychologically unsafe. After more than a decade in safety systems, helping organizations achieve dramatic risk reductions through scientific measurement rather than assumptions, I've discovered that the same principles that reveal hidden dangers in physical environments apply everywhere, especially to team psychological safety. When I assess any system for hidden risks, I often find situations that look perfect but prove hazardous when properly tested. The electrical system that passes visual inspection but fails under load testing. The financial process that appears robust until stress tested during a crisis. The textured floor that's lost its grip through wear but still looks safe. But this pattern extends far beyond technical systems. Consider a boardroom where every proposal gets unanimous approval, yet privately, directors harbour serious reservations they're afraid to voice. Think about the high-performing department where nobody challenges decisions because past experience taught them that questioning leadership leads to career limitations. Like a cardiac patient who appears healthy until diagnostic tests reveal blocked arteries, teams can appear collaborative while being fundamentally unsafe for vulnerability. In engineering, we use scientific instruments to measure what the eyes cannot see. Stress fractures in metal, electrical resistance under load, structural integrity under pressure. Visual inspection isn't enough when safety depends on accurate assessment. For psychological safety, the same principle applies. We need objective measures, not assumptions. When someone takes a professional risk, raises a concern, admits confusion, or challenges established thinking, will they find solid ground or will they fall? Amy Edmondson defines psychological safety as a shared belief that you can speak up without fear of punishment or humiliation. I see it as the structural integrity of your team, the foundation that either supports bold thinking or crumbles under pressure. Just as we wouldn't trust bridge safety to appearances alone, we cannot gauge team health by surface behaviors. Here's what I've learned from investigating thousands of system failures. The first response is almost always to blame the operator who made the final error. The pilot should have been more careful. The nurse wasn't paying attention. The employee didn't follow procedures. It was that person's fault they slipped. Yet every thorough investigation reveals systemic causes. Like a forensic investigator who looks beyond the immediate failure to examine design flaws, training gaps, and environmental pressures, we must examine the conditions that make failure likely. When someone in your team makes an error, stays silent, or struggles, the instinct is to question their judgment, skills, or attitude. But psychological safety research, and my experience with system safety, shows we must examine the environment, the conditions we've created that made it unsafe to succeed. In system design, when facing hazardous conditions, we have three fundamental approaches: eliminate the hazard entirely, control access during dangerous periods, or engineer safety into the system even when conditions become challenging. Think of aviation weather protocols. We can't eliminate storms, impossible. We can ground all flights during severe weather, restrictive, or we can design systems that operate safely even in challenging conditions, optimal. For psychological safety, the parallel is precise. We can attempt to create environments where people never need to be vulnerable, impossible, like trying to eliminate all uncertainty from business. We can restrict when people can speak up, dangerous, like grounding flights at the first sign of turbulence. Or we can build cultural systems robust enough to handle vulnerability even when discussions become difficult. The most resilient teams, like the most effective safety systems, choose option 3. In the aviation industry, pilots are rewarded for reporting near misses and safety concerns through confidential reporting systems. Instead of punishment for admitting problems, they receive recognition for helping identify systemic improvements. This has revolutionized aviation safety. I once supported a campaign where we rewarded people for identifying and addressing hazards before incidents happened. Hundreds of issues were resolved because we made proactive problem identification something worth celebrating and not something to fear. This principle transforms everything. When someone identifies a problem, flags a risk, or admits they don't understand something, that's not a failure. That's your early warning system functioning effectively. It's like a quality control inspector catching defects before products reach customers, or a financial auditor spotting irregularities before they become scandals. My own perspective on vulnerability changed dramatically in 2012 when I was struck by a speeding car while walking. The physical injuries healed, but the experience taught me something profound about the relationship between vulnerability and strength. That accident didn't weaken my commitment to safety, it crystallized it. Not despite the vulnerability it exposed, but because of it. When we're honest about our limitations, our uncertainties, our mistakes, that's when we can address them systematically. A bit like a mountain climber who becomes more safety conscious after experiencing a dangerous fall, vulnerability taught me that acknowledging weakness is the first step toward building genuine resilience. In system analysis, we have a fundamental principle. There will be setbacks, near misses, and failures, but these are opportunities for systematic improvement. We don't ask who's to blame, we ask what systemic factors contributed to this outcome. Think of how Formula One teams analyze crashes. They don't just blame the driver. They examine telemetry data, track conditions, car setup, communication patterns, and decision-making processes. Every incident becomes valuable data for preventing future problems. When someone in your team encounters difficulties, misses a deadline, makes an error, or remains silent when they should contribute, the question isn't about individual fault, it's about system design. What environmental factors made it unsafe to succeed? How do we strengthen the conditions so future performance improves? Just as engineers conduct stress testing to measure system performance under various conditions, you need to actively assess your team's psychological safety. Don't assume people will speak up simply because policies say they should. That's like assuming software will work without proper testing. Here's one practical test. In your next team meeting, ask, what's one thing we're not discussing that we should be? Then remain silent and count to 10. The silence will feel uncomfortable, but it reveals whether your team trusts the environment you've created. Test your team's foundation systematically. Are people finding solid support when they take risks, or are they learning to stay safe by never stepping forward? Here's what I'd love to know from you. What's the most dangerous assumption your team is making right now? Think about it systematically. Where are people staying silent because experience taught them it's safer to say nothing? What questions aren't being asked? What concerns remain unvoiced because the environment feels unstable? Drop a comment below and tell me about one hidden hazard you've identified in your workplace culture. Maybe it's meetings where consensus appears strong, private doubts run deep. Perhaps it's projects everyone knows are problematic, but no one wants to be the messenger. I'll respond to every comment with specific suggestions for how to scientifically assess that particular area. Consider it the free psychological safety evaluation for your situation, applying the same systematic approach I use for physical safety assessments. And if this resonates with your leadership experience, share this video with one colleague who needs to hear it. Sometimes, the most important safety conversations start when someone else points out the risks that we've stopped noticing. Your team's structural integrity matters. Let's determine how solid it really is and engineer improvements where needed.